Good morning, everybody, and welcome along to our, I think it's our 25th webinar here from Employmum and Employflex. We're delighted to have you all along here today on this beautiful sunny morning. So we are Employmum and Employflex. We're all about flexible work, and that could be part-time, it could be remote work, job share, compressed hours, or anything that's not really of a full-time nature. So we're in the recruitment business. And we have a really good database of candidates registered with us at the moment. We've got a lot of active jobs at the moment, actually. So if you're looking for work, make sure you get onto our social media and have a look there and see what we have available if there's something there for you. We also run training and workshops for remote work. And we also run these webinars as well. We've been running them since the start of COVID. And we're absolutely delighted today to have Ingrid with us. And she's going to be talking about the no guilt solution to managing it all. So I'm really looking forward to that ourselves. So we're also featured a lot on mainstream media. And today we're on the Journal, actually, if you want to check that out. The journal.ie, you can check that out. We have an article on managing teams post-COVID. So we'd love for you to follow us on social media as well and give us a shout out. We run these webinars pro bono, so that would be a really good and lovely give back to us if you could follow us on social media and give us a shout out maybe today. So we are recording this, we'll be up on YouTube afterwards. So anybody who's missed this, or if you want to look at it again afterwards, you can catch it on our YouTube channel afterwards. So we encourage you to get involved, and Ingrid is going to go through her presentation and we'll have the questions and answers afterwards. So if you hover over the bottom of your screen there, you can pop your questions into the question and answer box there, and Ingrid will answer any specific questions you have afterwards. So Ingrid, we're absolutely thrilled to have you today, and thank you so much for coming along. Ingrid is a psychological coach, and she's also the founder of Avenues Coaching. She has years of corporate experience and just stuck out on her own then to start coaching, and uses her corporate experience and her personal experience as well. So looking forward to hearing her story. We're both on the Network Core Committee, so we know each other, but not that well personally because we haven't met actually each other really that much in the last year because of this second COVID thing. But so look, Ingrid is also a mother of 3. And as I said, she uses her own personal and corporate experience for her coaching business. So we're really looking forward to this. I personally am really looking forward to this myself. So we'll, as I said, we'll hand it over to Ingrid now, and any questions you have as she goes along, we'll answer them afterwards and have a chat afterwards. So over to you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Karen, and I'm delighted to be here. And it is a lovely sunny day, and it does make a difference, doesn't it? I kind of feel it lifts my spirits a little bit. So I'm going to talk. I have a couple of slides, and I'll talk for about 20 to 25 minutes, I guess, and then I'd love to take your questions afterwards. And by chance, if you don't have time for everything, you can reach out to me outside of this too. I'd be delighted to talk to anybody about what's on your mind. So really happy to be here. And just to Karen, I'm always really admired what you've done and what you've created with Employflex. That kind of looking around you, seeing that something is missing here, something's not right, we need something, and then doing something about it and creating this wonderful offering for both employers and job seekers. I think it's amazing. And I guess that thing about taking action and doing something about it that's my own little segue to the no guilt solution to managing it all, because that's about taking action too, and about doing something with our own situation. Yeah. And the things that we're struggling with, all those plates that we're spinning and the balls that we're juggling, so that we can get to a place where life's never going to be easy, right? It's always throwing stuff at us. But if we can get to a place where it doesn't feel like such a struggle, where we can live our life with more ease, we can live it with ease without it being easy all the time. If we're not chasing our tail all the time, if we're not feeling guilty all the time, because we do. I have to do a post on this sometimes. I'm going to write down all the little things that I still feel guilty about every day, starting from, you know, do I get up straight away or do I hit the snooze button? And they just keep going. And I don't really listen. And those are small things, but they do add up, and it creates this kind of autopilot of just feeling bad. And I don't really listen to those niggling voices anymore because I've learned to tune them out, but they're there, you know. And then it becomes, it gets to bigger things as well about what we take on and how we, you know, run our household and what we do in work and whether we take time off and if we spend it on ourselves or, you know, all of those things. We get so used to being in that frame of mind, and that's what we're here to change. So now, because I work with mindset, obviously, and I'm a psychological coach, but I always like to have a couple of disclaimers there, especially when we talk about the topic of, you know, women managing it all, because, you know, the challenges that we're facing today or forever, actually, you know, in society and in the workplace, and I don't know, in our families or whatever it is, like, they're not down to a mindset issue that, you know, women have that we need to fix, okay? Like, they're not down to, I don't know, our confidence levels or negotiation skills or, you know, risk-taking propensity or whatever it is, or your own ability to add self-care onto, like, your already super long list of things to do, okay? Because there are a lot of structural changes that need to take place. And again, Karen, thank you for all the work you do in that area and you know, in media and through your work. So, you know, we need societal change, okay? So we need to keep fighting to get, you know, more women into decision-making positions and, you know, more flexible workplace policies, more, you know, maybe we wouldn't be in the position then where the Justice Minister almost couldn't take maternity leave because it wasn't in place. Nobody had thought that this was something that we needed to prepare for, you know. So, you know, we need to, I really want to make that clear. This is not another thing that you need to carry on your shoulders, okay? But mindset does matter, and it is my area of expertise, and it matters a lot, you know. The way we feel about ourselves and the way we think and the way we prioritize, you know, it really does matter. And I learned that the hard way, and I'll share a little bit of my story in a bit too. But so we do owe it to ourselves, you know, despite the circumstances, and you know, while we wait for more, I know, female senior leadership or better policies or better childcare solutions or whatever it is, to set ourselves up for success. It sounds a bit like a cliche. I don't really like saying it like that, but it's true though. You know, you do owe it to yourself to set to have success in your life, to make your own life successful, whatever that means to you. And that involves challenging ourselves, you know, and that can be hard sometimes because we need to challenge, I think, our conceptions of what our lives should look like or what they need to look like, and challenging that perception that we need to do everything and take everything on, you know. And balance is going to mean different things to all of us, and that's really important because this is not a one size fits all exercise. And then, you know, I do have some tips and like, if, you know, top 5 things to do, whatever, but sometimes when you see those lists, you know, I think one time I saw this 40 ways to make your life, to get better work-life balance. And I was exhausted after reading the first 5. And I've fallen victim, I think, to that in the past, where I go, like, I talk about batch cooking a lot, and I'll mention it later too. But like, I used to have this thing that I would batch cook at the weekends, and because that was like the #1 time saving things for during the week. But it backfired completely because it just left me exhausted at the weekends to, instead of, you know, resting and recharging my batteries, I had, like, you know, 5 slow cookers going, and like, that was not what I needed to do. So, you know, we need to find out what works for us, what gives you joy and energy, and what can you do to make your life easier. So I'm going to, sorry, just share some slides here. Where is my, okay. Sorry now, no matter how many times I do this. 1 second, okay? No matter how many webinars I've done, there's always something. So let's see if I can get this up on the share. There we go. Hiding in the corner, hiding in plain sight, like a lot of things in life. So I'm hoping everybody can see this. Karen, you might give me a shout if it's not coming up, but okay, I'm here seeing raised hands, so that's good. Okay, super. Glad to hear it. Yeah, very good. I did a talk on Women's Day, and I managed to mute myself halfway through, and I'd been talking for about like 2 minutes on mute while I had my screen hidden behind something else. So hopefully that won't happen today. But basically, so anyone who has been to any of my workshops or presentations will have seen this slide before, because I always share it, and I always ask rhetorically if it resonates with anybody. You might want to raise your hand if it does. I have never, yeah, here we go. I've, see, always, I've never given a talk where this hasn't resonated. And I was talking about this recently when we talked about, you know, the results of your work, you know, what do you want the results of your work to be? And I think I said, I'd love to one day show this slide and have people go, oh my God, why is she doing all this? What's that all about, you know? So we're clearly not there yet, but it is my hope that eventually we'll at least get to a stage where people say, oh yeah, that used to be me, but you know what, it's not anymore. So, and you know, these pictures kind of instinctively speak to us, but the stats do back us up, because we know that this is a pre-pandemic stat, actually, it's from 2018, that women spend on average 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic and care work as men do, and that's gone up. National Women's Council of Ireland did a survey for uncaring during COVID, and I think 85% of women surveyed said that their care load had gone up since the virus. And also 55% that had less time for their mental health. And there was another study now by Maynooth University who showed that in 65% of the families surveyed, women took on, it was either the full or the main responsibility for homeschooling. So obviously this is having an impact, you know, and although homeschooling is hopefully, fingers crossed, over for now, it sets this kind of precedent where it's, or precedent, where it's women that drop stuff first, you know, it's us that make it fit with our own workload, or, you know, move our desk so that somebody else can work on it, or whatever it is. And we make it work, and we're really, really good at this. And we're resilient, and we're resourceful, and we, you know, we make it work. But it comes at a cost. And I think we need to be really, really clear about what that cost is. And guilt comes into this as well. And because I think once we allow ourselves to just feel guilty if we don't make all these kind of sacrifices, it kind of stops us from really analyzing the situation and ask us, is this the best solution for us and everybody in the long term? Yeah. So yeah, and it does, sorry, this is a bit of a depressing slide, but I'm going to end on a positive, okay? Because it does chip away at us. And, you know, I speak to so many overwhelmed women on a daily basis who reach out to me, who if they're not at the end of their tether always, it's like something like, this is too much. I can't make it work. And very often, literally, work is the one thing that does give, because it's the thing we feel we can sacrifice, which isn't right, you know. So a little bit about myself. Some of you know me already, but I'm originally from Norway. I moved to Ireland in the mid-90s to stay for 1 or 2 years, and here I am still. So this is me with my 3 kids, and they're a little older now than they were in those photographs. But the reason I choose this, and this is another staple of my presentations and workshops, because I really want to share this. I share my lessons learned the hard way quite openly. I am completely burnt out in these photographs. They are taken around, I don't know, it was about 2016, 2017, and I had gone through some really tough years. Around that time, I had all 5 life stressors happen to me in the space of 2 years. So, you know, I moved house twice, I moved jobs. Actually, I moved counties. I moved from Dublin to Cork as well. I had a baby, my youngest son, Fionn, who's now 7. He's about 3 or 4 in those pictures. But I separated from my partner, and then after all that, my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she lived in Norway, and I was traveling back and forth, and I did take some leave around that time to do that, but that had its own complications. But so all this was going on, and I kept going through it all, and I actually felt that I was, you know, quite in control of it all, that I was doing a pretty good job, like kind of textbook case of how to manage it all really well in all aspects of my life, right? And, you know, people would ask me, how do you do all this? I'd be telling them what was going on. And I'd be smiling, I'd genuinely smile, going, sure, you know, it's fine. And anyway, this is just what I do. You know, you've no choice. You just have to keep going. So I took on more work, more responsibilities in work, and I did the infamous batch cooking at the weekends. And like, I had au pair, and I had a childminder, and I had lots of help from friends. But ultimately, it still comes down to you, right? And I was just birthday parties and play dates, and I also tried to, you know, do the self-care bit. And I was traveling with work because it was busy. It was insane. And eventually I hit the wall big time, and I went to my GP, and I just went, I cannot do this anymore. And it took me, I was off work for a year. That's how long it took me to really recover from that burnout, and giving me a lot of time to reflect. And that's when I then decided to go into coaching. I went back and did the coaching masters in UCC. But what I realized was that like something had to change, and that I had the power to do it. Now, I ended up leaving full-time employment to set up my own. I don't want that to be the only solution available to women today. And what struck me when I looked at my own life was that a lot of those life stressors I experienced and the circumstances around them were outside my control. But my own actions and thoughts and feelings, they were not. And there were thought patterns and actions there that went back a long time. And, you know, tendencies to take on too much, to want to prove myself, to be really optimistic and overcommitting, overcompensating for others maybe, or, you know, if I had let some of those go earlier, I think things might have turned out differently. Now, they've turned out quite well, but still, I don't recommend going through a burnout to get to that point, right? It's not, don't, okay, just don't. So it's like, once I stepped out of that autopilot of just getting on with it and feeling that you've no choice but to do everything and make, so I call them mindful decision making about what you're going to take on and not. And that means really looking at what you do and why you do it, for whom you're doing it. And those reasons aren't always as clear-cut as you might think, all right? And, you know, what purpose does this serve, you doing all this work? And then you can decide whether you're going to do it or not. And once you make, and this is key, once you make that informed decision, so going, I've weighed up all the circumstances, all the pros and cons, and I'm choosing this thing because, you know, it seems the best thing, knowing what I know now to do it. There's a lot less chance of you feeling guilty or bad once you've made the call. Sure, you might look back and go, well, actually, probably wasn't the best thing to do, but it doesn't really matter because you made an informed decision. You're allowed to be wrong, like, you know, that's part of life too. And you can just kind of take the learnings from that then and make a different choice the next time. But it's empowering yourself to put yourself at the center of that kind of sea of crazy stuff that's going around you and make choices, you know. It's not easy, okay, that's why I run whole programs on this to help people figure it out, but it's necessary, okay, to get to a place where you can just stop. Like, those balls are going to fall, right, if you keep juggling. It's not really, you can't, it's a performance, you know, you can't doing that all your life, you know. So I am going to do a tiny little exercise with you. This is not really a workshop, but we will do this one because I love it. And you've been listening to me now for 15-20 minutes anyway. So we're just going to take a little bit of a literal breather. This is on, you'll see I always mention it as one of my top tips for managing things in life, is just remembering how to breathe. And somebody went to one of my workshops and actually ordered a print of this one, and she has it on her desk now to remind herself. So I'd like you all, you can stay seated or stand up or do whatever you want, but just take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you do any kind of yoga or mindfulness work, you'll be familiar with the power of the breath, but it's just, we'll do it together. So 1, in and out. Again. And last one. All right. I just love doing it because I kind of forget to breathe myself when I'm in the middle of talking and running through everything. And I can just feel how, if anybody wants to share how you're feeling, but like, it's, I just find it calms me, it energizes me, it quietens things. And I literally tell people to set their alarm on their phone every couple of hours to just, you know, remember to do this in the middle of the day. I'm amazed how much of a difference it can make. So the next thing I want to do, and we're not going to do that here because it takes a bit of time, but this is kind of what I do with in my programs and workshops. But finding your vision is key. This is your it, okay? So when we say managing it all, your vision is the it or the all, and that's what I mean about it's not the one size. You live your life, you know, it can be whatever you want it to be, but you need to know what it is that you want. And that's the bit we tend to forget about because it's so busy and we have so many responsibilities and there's so many other people's whose visions kind of cloud ours and whatever. So I'd love you to do this afterwards, okay? Or tonight or at the weekend or whatever. Just take some time. You can journal this or just think it and just imagine a point in the future. And that can be, depending on where you're at, right? So it can either be like, okay, if your life is crazy right now and you just need a better kind of day-to-day structure, visualizing next week might help. If you want to think further ahead, you can go next month, 12 months. It's hard to plan ahead now. We know this, but still there's something there that you can tap into that you want for yourself and your life, okay? Or you can go 5 years or even 10 years. It serves different purposes, you know. I did this exercise the first time during my coaching masters, and I love the fact that the vision that came to me then about what I wanted my life to be is what I'm actually living now. I'm kind of pinch myself sometimes every so often to just realize that I manifested it, you know. So when you do this, you need to think if everything goes as well as it possibly can. And that's the key, because we keep throwing obstacles in our own way, right? We're going, well, that can't possibly be because, and what if, and all of this. So just clear the way. Imagine if everything goes as well as it possibly can, what does your life look like? Who are you? What do you do? And really spend some time visualizing. There's a reason why we use visualization a lot in mindset work and in like sports. If you think of, you know, sports techniques, they've been doing that for a long time. So you visualize yourself. I don't do sports really, but like, you know, penalty shootouts or whatever, you know, or the high jumps, you're supposed to visualize yourself doing that jump, because your memories and your visions are kind of stored in the same place, or not same place, near each other in the brain. So it can't quite differentiate. So if you visualize something, it's like part of you think you've already done it, and you'll start seeing more opportunities to materialize it. Okay. We won't have time to go into all the details of this, the neuroscience behind it, but it does work. Okay. So do this, see where you end up. You can, very often it can be surprising. I often do this and I go, oh, that's what I want, you know. So give yourself this little gift of trying to find your vision. And that's where the work comes in then, because then what we need to do is look at where we're at, right? And a bit like the overwhelmed women in my first slide, when we do this and do the comparison, so you look at what you're currently doing and, you know, what takes up most of your time and energy, because we know they're not the same thing, in your current reality. And how does that match up with your vision? And then this is the spoiler alert. Very often, most of the people I work with, there isn't a huge overlap here, okay? So this is where we need to start making changes, okay? With that vision as your guiding star, okay? Otherwise, you're just gonna get lost. You start making changes, and, you know, start small here, like pick one thing that you might want to, like, that your life would be easier if I didn't do this one thing, or if I did this one thing instead of that thing, or something like that. Just like, don't go full in here. And, you know, it's like joining the gym in January, you know, it's like, be realistic and pick something manageable. Just pick one thing. All right. Because, and it's hard, but, you know, we do need to make a change, because if we don't change anything, like, things aren't going to magically change for us. And I used to have this thing that, you know, it's is this one? Yeah. I love this slide, because I used to always go, oh, when my kids are older, when work is quieter, that never worked out, or when the weather's better, or after the summer holidays, or whatever it is, like that kind of magical thing that was just going to make things easier or all right. And yeah, sometimes there are circumstances that we just need to kind of, you need to ride that storm and wait for it to pass. But sometimes you can't, and sometimes you just need to make those changes. The conditions are never going to be perfect. The conditions, and quoting this now, this is obviously not my quote, it's Alan Cohen, but you making a start will create those conditions for you and make them perfect. You can't just sit and wait, you know. And oh yeah, I'll just talk about Edge Cooper in a minute. because so things aren't going to be handed to you on the plate. We need to take action to challenge ourselves and what we're doing and how we're doing it, and use those tools and techniques to make it easier for us. You know, it's I say it's challenging, but it's not going to be so hard that you can't do it. But again, Agent Cooper is a familiar presence in my work, and this is maybe a generational thing, but anyone who remembers Twin Peaks will know Agent Cooper. He had this thing, and this made, for some reason, a profound impact on me when I heard this back in the days. So his quote is then, every day, once a day, give yourself a present. Don't plan it. Don't wait for it. Just let it happen. It could be a new shirt at the men's, well, okay, so adapt this as needed, right? It could be a new shirt at the men's store, a catnap in your office chair, or 2 cups of good hot black coffee. And I try to do this. It's like, it's something small. It's that pause where you go, actually, I'm doing this for myself right now, and it's a gift to myself, and I'm going to enjoy it. And it can be tiny. It can be, I don't know, those 5 minutes extra in bed, if in the morning, or whatever it is. If you're hiding away from your from your family in your room with a cup of tea, like, just the key is to give yourself permission to do it. And even just by recognizing that this is something I'm doing for myself, you will start creating those habits. Okay. And you're going to have that little voice going, oh, I shouldn't really be doing this, so this is very indulgent and whatever. And this is where, again, I'm going to kind of finish on the guilt, because guilt is like a get out of jail card to not make a change, if you know what I mean. Like, guilt is obviously useful if you've done something really bad as a moral compass, but that's not really what we're talking about here. Guilt is never gonna propel you forward. It's going to hold you back, and it's going to stop you from questioning why you're making the choices you're making, because it's going to tell you that, well, sure, you know, if you don't do that, or we're really creative when it comes to the negative impact of the not making a certain decision, and it's normally going to be somebody else, you know, impacting badly on somebody else. It's normally the key mommy guilt, at least for those of us who have kids, but, like, you know, work guilt, like, it's really easy to surrender to the guilt. So just promise me that you'll try and challenge it if it, and because it will, yeah, like, I feel if the sun's shining, I'm guilty because I don't take my kids to the park. You know, it's those kind of micro things that'll just be at you all the time. So I'm hoping now that with these little tools and those insights, that you can get the start on making things a little bit manageable. And again, with the caveat that if there are things outside of your control, like if, say, it's a work situation, or you know, if you're really ambitious but you had to, suddenly you're homeschooling kids for 3 months, like, how are you going to balance that out? But the reality is that it's actually impossible to homeschool kids and work full time and you know, do more than the bare minimum. And we need to accept that. Then we can't pretend that it's not impossible, and we can't assume that what needs to give is us, you know. So it's that kind of challenge that we need to do. If I'm starting a kind of a group program for this, I do mainly individual coaching at the moment, but I want to do a group to make it more accessible to more people over a shorter period of time. So it's starting in May, 6 weeks. I was going to call it boot camp, but then I thought, no, I don't like that. That sounds really kind of, you know, pressure, and it's not. It's gentle, okay? So if anybody's interested in hearing more about that, please do reach out to me. After that, you have all my details and know where to find me. And let's see, we have time, I think, for questions. I'm going to stop this presentation and get back to you.
That was fantastic, Ingrid. Thank you so much for that. Some great tips and tools there that we can use in our daily lives. Really good. And thanks so much for sharing your own personal story, actually, which I didn't know. Even though I don't know how many times we've met, but very interesting and very relatable, I suppose, for a lot of people here, and myself personally as well.
Yeah.
So I just wondering, because we're all about flexible work in the workplace, as you know. But I was just wondering, what would have worked for you to stay at your work?
Yeah.
What would have changed? I know you felt you were burnt out and had to leave your situation, but what could your employers have done that would have?
Yeah, it's a funny one, because I actually had, like, I was lucky in one way. Like, when my mother got sick, I took 12 months off, like unpaid, obviously, but like I got the option. My manager at the time said to me that, do you need time off? Because, she was in a different country. And so I'm not sure that is an option that would have been available to everybody, but that helped because I knew I could take the time off, and I knew I had a job to go back to. So I think that meant a lot to me, actually, that option was there. But I think that was kind of like a one-off. But I think when it kept going, I think it's twofold. I think there needs to be the psychological safety in the workplace to say that, listen, right now things are really hard for me. Doesn't mean I'm not committed. It doesn't mean that I don't have ambition, that I want to go forward. But right now, it's just too much. But I think for me, and that can be a hard one to admit. I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to admit that I couldn't handle it. Like, I came back and I was like, I can totally do this. And there was a lot of pride built into that for me, and there was a lot of, I'm going to show you, like, I've all this going on in my life, and I can still, like, we did the big reorg in work, and I was like, I'll take on 2 teams, actually, because, and it's because, and I think I was partly afraid that if I didn't, and there might be a reality behind this, right? That if I didn't do this, people would start looking at me going, well, and this is a real issue for women. She's not really committed. Look at her. She's all this going on in her life. We can't really count on her going forward. So let's just, but it's that balancing act, And I think at some point, I wasn't offered, but there was a conversation about, did I maybe want less responsibilities for a while? But I took that as a very, what do you mean? Am I not doing my job? So it's, I think we owe it to ourselves to really see, would that have helped me? If long-term, do I want to stay and rise in the ranks in this company? And what do I need to get to a point where I can fully do that? But then also we know it's an issue for women where, once, the motherhood penalty or whatever, where you're not seen as committed as the men who have kids but aren't. So I think employers really need to send that message that we think long-term here. We think long-term, we are going to invest in you, and we're going to give everybody what they need. And it's not going to negatively impact you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard one for because we're so used to this performance reviews, right? So what do you do in the performance review where those things come in, and somebody it's a balance. And also on that, have those conversations with men too. Because the flexibility, and like what I know loads of men who want to spend more time with their family, but are, and may have don't make this a genderized conversation. What do everybody need so that they can manage it all? And that's, I think, where you're going to see the real change.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like if your employer had done anything differently, would you still be there? Or would you have left? Like, no matter what they did.
It's hard to know. Hard to know.
Interesting conversation, I think.
It's hard to know. Yeah. And I'm also really happy with what I'm doing now. So it's, I don't know. It wasn't on my I never thought I'd start my own company, Karen. Like that was never on my radar. I always was very happy to be an employee, to work my way up in a big company, to have that support and all of that. So I don't know. And also if all of those things hadn't happened to me in that period of time, because that was a bit extreme,
Kind of the perfect storm, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But, so I don't know. It's I don't know.
Yeah, impossible to say, I suppose. Yeah. I love the bit about the visualization, and visualizing that. And actually, another coach was talking this week about, having a vision board. Which is something I'm going to do myself here and put it in front of myself here. And I think that's really a good idea, to constantly be looking at that vision board next to your desk or whatever. And, it just kind of makes it easier, I suppose, to manifest those things then that I know lots of real life stories where vision boards have actually come through, live in the house that they had pinned up on the vision board, and stuff like that. I know. It does work, And
I used to do the opposite, and I did a blog about that a week or so ago about, I used to have this thing fear that I was jinxing it, right? Okay. If I let myself dream of something and it goes back, I don't know where it's like, I know it's not true. It's actually, I knew it wasn't true, but I didn't realize it did the opposite actually. Yeah. Because I'd go, if you, it's like tempting fate, or, like, don't think about it. If you allow yourself to really dream, it's definitely not going to happen. So, it's the opposite, it's,
Yeah, I suppose it comes back to that thing about giving a present to yourself, if you don't believe it's going to happen, if you're not nice to yourself, then it's definitely not going to happen. Really.
No, it's not, because you're closing yourself up to all those opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, we'll pop in and see if there's any questions here, Ingrid. So somebody's just saying here that they love the 3 cleansing breaths before they go to bed. They do it every night. Okay. Yeah. So from somebody else, I wanted to ask if you had a few simple steps that we can do before we embrace the day every morning. Yeah. Before our heads get consumed with to-do lists. So a few simple steps in the morning.
Yeah. Well, the breathing always is a good one. And something about setting your intentions, I think. Like and this is another of my top tips, is to kind of just set your intentions about what's the one thing or the 3 things that I want to achieve today. And because we tend to want to do too many things. So it's like, if by the end of today I've managed to do this one thing, I'm actually quite happy, and anything else is a bonus. And that can change, by the way, throughout the day, but it's so setting that intention for the day, and have a little ritual, I think. I know some people who work a lot with rituals, but for me, it's my coffee in the morning. And it's like I come down and the kettle and my little tiny little coffee pot, and I make the coffee and I just have it and I sit down. That first cup of coffee in the morning is that's my gift to myself actually every day, is that. So something that kind of anchors you and gives you that pause and helps you remember what you're here for,
Okay, good. Yeah. And do you have do you subscribe to a gratitude journal? I know a lot of coaches.
Yeah, I do. I use it on and off. Yeah. I took part in the study that one of the students was doing on gratitude, and I had the little app on my phone, and that actually sends me messages now. So I do it. But gratitude is so important, and I think it's the one thing that's carried me through the pandemic. For sure, is gratitude. And, you don't always have to write down the stuff at the end of the day, because normally I'm too tired by the end of the day to do it. But during the day, to kind of think of things that I'm grateful for. And I do that a lot. And it's really helped me when there are so many things that are just, not so good at the moment.
I know,
so many things that have been taken away from us that, gratitude to me is huge.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, another one here from Valerie, one of our regulars. Brilliant talk. Thank you very much. So what would be your top tips for somebody like me, who's a mother of 3, about to start a full-time job after being idle at home for the last 3 lockdowns and previously working part-time for 5 years? I am bracing for impact. So she's going into a full-time job after going for part-time.
I'd wonder, like, what's your biggest concern, I guess, Valerie? Like, what's and you can, if you want to reach out to me afterwards, I'll happily have a chat with you.
Yeah.
Because it's there's probably a lot of top tips.
I suppose just from coming from my perspective, I would say, you know, to set the boundaries from the beginning, you know, and to make sure that, you know, if you are working remotely, that the boundaries are set between work and life, if you can, you know, something you touched on there is to learn to say no. And even though you are starting a new job, you know, and you feel like you have to prove yourself in a new position, and that, like, if you set a precedent when you start as being somebody who's always available, somebody who will answer an email at 10 o'clock at night, who will you know, go, you know, work on Saturdays and Sundays, you know, that precedent is set then, and you'll be known as a person who, you know, is always on call, you know. So set those boundaries and learn to say, well, you know, that's not my job is or no, that's beyond my capacity, or I'm full, you know, my capacity is full, you know, and learn how to say no, I think, you know, particularly in a, you know, and that's kind of a tricky one in a new job.
It is, and but again, look at what you want to get out of the job as well. And I think we forget to do that. Like, what's your ambition in your job, and what do you want to do with it, and where do you want to get to with it? And if you focus on that, I find it's easier to filter out some of the noise in work too, if you're focusing on what are your priorities in the role that you're taking on, and what do you want to achieve with it, and be really, really clear on that, you know. But also take shortcuts wherever you can, because work is going to take up, if you've been at home, work is going to take up a lot of the time that was previously available to do other things. So you cannot, whatever way you ran your life in the past, some of that's going to have to give, and that's not the bad thing, you know. It's like some of the I don't know whether that's I don't know what's been important for you in those last year or two, but like some of that, like some of the standards might have to drop, and that's okay, you know. It's and like, I love shortcuts, you know. It's just take them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And congratulations, Valerie. Well done on getting a job during lockdown, and best of luck with it, because I know you've been coming to a lot of our webinars. So nice to see that you got something there. Fair play. Claire is asking, do you find it difficult to give so much time to your own business as well as being a mum?
No, I don't actually. I actually find it complements each other quite well, and I love, now maybe it's because everything's at home, it's easier to blend, but even beforehand, I never had that. In itself wasn't the issue, and I love involving my kids in what I do. My daughter in particular loves avenues, and you know, she wants to do a trailer for me now to put online, and like she's really engaged in, you know, are you doing a workshop, and you know, I find that for me, it's part of who I am, and it's part of what I want my kids to see, and you know, as a role model maybe, but not just that. Like, it's just part of me, and the kids see that, and I actually, that's not a problem for me at all.
Brilliant. I suppose that is the beauty of being self-employed as well, and having your own business, is that you can be as flexible as you want, because you're your own boss, like, you know, so you can be there for the pickups and the homework and the birthday parties and the, you know.
But you know what though, when I was working full time, and I had childminders, and I had au pairs and everything, and that worked fine too. Like, it really did. And again, involving them, I'd sometimes bring them into the office, you know, they knew where I worked. It's that in itself was not necessarily an issue.
Yeah.
Such, it was other things.
Okay, excellent. From Blonit, thank you for this, Karen and Ingrid. I'm currently looking to go back to employment after a year's hiatus. Every so often I have huge pangs of mom guilt. Thank you for this wonderful webinar. I found it extremely helpful, and you'll be doing visualizing exercise today. So not a question, but just a thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to get that feedback.
Okay, Valerie, yes, stress managing time. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, if you want to have a chat, reach out to me. I'm happy to cover some of that with you. But yeah, it's shortcuts, okay? And be clear on your goals and objectives. Yeah.
I would also say if it's a type of organization that where you could reach out for a mentor within the organization as well, you know, that can really be very helpful. So I said we don't know where you're going to work or anything about it, but you know, you can seek out a mentor or a coach or a sponsor even within the organization.
Yeah.
Guide you along, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see.
Wait a while until you go in there and figure out who appeals to you and the type of personality and the type of work ethic they have, you know. Yeah.
I see Rachel has a comment here about issue in the workplace if you look for flexible hours. That and it does impact women in career progression. And that is a huge issue that needs to stop. Like, and that's what I mean about you know, that shouldn't be on our shoulders, you know, to carry, you know, but at the same time we need volume and we need to speak about it and we need to make it acceptable. But yeah, organizations really need to be clear that it's again thinking long term where you know, if you
absolutely, yeah, totally agree. Annette is just saying thank you as well, great discussions, really enjoy that. Thank you. It's really lovely to get this feedback, guys, you know. So a lot of other thank yous coming through there. Yeah, and some came through by email. How do you set and adhere to boundaries?
It's boundaries are tricky, but again, I did a video on that a while ago too, actually. But there's something about, first of all, be clear about, again, the vision. Be clear on what you want, because very often we say yes to things because we haven't worked out what we want anyway. So, you know, you might as well just say yes to things because you don't have a clear guide in your own head. Also, practice it. Like, it's like I like to consider myself quite an easygoing person, and that's kind of, I pride myself in. I'm not difficult. I'll go along with things. It doesn't really. I remember my mum used to always, you know, be really particular about where we sat in the restaurant or even what seat on the bus to get, and like really, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that can become a habit.
Yeah.
You know. So I tell people to, like, practice having an opinion about something that maybe doesn't matter to you so much, about, you know, what movie to watch or, you know, what takeaway to order, like small stuff. Just use that muscle, that kind of boundary muscle, to get used to not just saying yes on autopilot. You know? And then sometimes it's okay to say yes to, if it's something that you really want to do, and something that, energy is an important thing. If what you're saying yes to is something that kind of energizes you and gives you joy and leads you towards where you want to get to, by all means do it, right? But if you find yourself saying yes to things that just drain you, like those energy suckers, you know, they're just, you get nothing from it. You don't have time for your own stuff afterwards, and it's just soul destroying. Like, don't say yes to those things, you know. Say yes to the nice things.
Very, very good advice there. And for myself as well. I know if I've got to do anything to do, I am an accountant by profession, but if I have to do anything on the accountancy side of things, like, it'll be the last thing I'll do. It'll be the less. And I know I'll be, as you say, drained of energy from it. Like, so,
and then if loads of people ask you for favors with accountancy because they know you're doing it, and that gives you nothing, then don't do it, you know.
Set those boundaries. Okay, listen, that's all we have time for today. That we've gone through all the questions there, and lots of thanks as well, which is lovely. So where can people find you?
I am, so our website is avenues.ie. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not super active on Instagram, but I am there. So you will see me if you message me there, I will see it, even if I don't post so much. Facebook. Yeah, please reach out. It's
very good. And you have that course, that 6-week
course. I have
course
that course starting. It'll be launching sometime in May. 6 weeks. I'm thinking we'll get there before the holidays and the kids are off again. You know what I mean? So really, that's why I almost wanted to call it the boot camp, because it's like, let's get ready for the holidays. But it's going to be a gentle, weekly group meetings and everything like that, where we work through a lot of what I mentioned here. So if anybody's interested in hearing more about that, just email me or message me, or you'll find me.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, a huge thanks again, Ingrid. That was really, really good.
Yeah, and the final thing, I'm also doing a webinar next week on actual workloads, like managing it all in the workplace. That might be of interest. It's on LinkedIn, and it's on in the evening, on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. And I'm going to talk specifically about managing workload issues.
Okay, great. Well, we can share that on our social media if you send us that link. So we'll have that up there in across all our social media as well. So perfect. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
So much, Ingrid. Lovely chatting to you, and we'll see you soon. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Bye everybody. Thank you.